The Empire's first villainess encounters the notorious Playboy for the first time and immediately proposes marriage, shocking the entire city. The entire city erupts in astonishment. Raven, the Duke's son who claims he will never fall in love, finds himself cornered against a rose-covered wall by the woman known as the Empire's most evil, the one who despises all men. The declaration of war that explodes in his ear cuts sharper than any blade. "You will definitely fall in love with me." Her rose-scented fingertips brush past his throat. "Being intoxicated by me will be the most thrilling hunting game of your life." Raven kneels on one knee and asks affectionately, "Will you marry me? I will treat you well for the rest of my life." Raven suddenly opens his eyes. He had that dream again. Although it was just a dream, it remains utterly bewildering, almost like a prophetic vision. He absolutely cannot let such a thing happen. It's just a mockery of myself who declared to be single for life. At this moment, the butler enters and interrupts Raven's thoughts. The butler smiles as he delivers the message. His Grace the Duke requests that you come to him now. There is an important matter to discuss. Raven is filled with doubts, wondering what business his father, whom he sees perhaps once every 800 years, could possibly have with him. "I want you to marry the daughter of Duke Charlene," his father declares with finality. Raven stares at his father in shock, unable to believe this is real. The House of Charlene serves as the Empire's healers, bearing the responsibility of healing and purification. Meanwhile, his own House of Deer is responsible for subjugating magical creatures, so injuries never cease to plague them. Therefore, Raven has no objections to choosing an alliance with the House of Charlene through marriage. However, there is one major problem. The daughter of Duke Charlene is famously known as the Empire's man-killer. Once, when a noble young master courted her, she mockingly replied that if he was willing to become her dog, she might consider it. For such a woman who despises men to agree to marry him, Raven finds it utterly incomprehensible. Ironically, she is rumored to be the Empire's first villainess who thoroughly detests men, while Raven, who frequents pleasure quarters, is known as the notorious heartbreaker. Once they meet, they will be like fire and water. Will he not be killed the moment they lay eyes on each other? His father, sensing Raven's hesitation, makes it clear that this is His Majesty's decree and the engagement cannot be dissolved. If Raven refuses to marry, his father will wed his sister to Marquess Ellery instead. Thinking of that lecherous old man who could be his sister's father, Raven stops arguing. The butler enters the room again, reporting, "Lady Charlene has come to visit and requests to meet the young master in the garden." Only now does Raven understand that. He has been kept in the dark from the beginning. Everything has been planned. Arriving at the garden, he sees a long-haired woman from afar smelling the flowers. Raven approaches, prepared to meet the person from the rumors. But he is stunned. The person standing before him looks exactly like the woman who appears in his dreams. This is truly surprising. How could such a thing happen? The two arrive at a pavilion in the garden. Raven gets straight to the point. "I oppose this engagement. Why do you want to marry me?" "Because I like you," she says, lifting his chin. Raven becomes quite shy. "You're different from the rumors." Unable to discern her purpose for approaching his family, Raven becomes even more unwilling to marry her. He turns to leave. With a snap, a sharp pain strikes, preventing Raven from standing up. Just then, a subordinate arrives to report. The first unit has encountered a boss-level magical creature. Never before has a magical creature appeared after a subjugation. What is happening this time? The magical creature roars within the forbidden zone, injuring people everywhere. The soldiers fight bravely, showing no retreat. Just as the magical creature is about to harm someone, Raven descends from the sky. He successfully defeated the monster. The soldiers exclaim in admiration, "This is the power of a guardian. It gives us such a sense of security." While examining the wounded, Raven discovers the situation is far from ideal. There are too many severely injured, and the outlook is grim. Just then, flower petals begin to fall. The female protagonist Estrella makes her dazzling entrance. She had heard news of the magical creature's appearance, and used teleportation magic to follow and investigate. Seeing the soldiers struggling in agony as miasma spreads throughout their bodies, Estrella immediately releases a purification skill. Sure enough, all the miasma retreats. She purifies all the patients single-handedly. At this moment, a remaining magical creature attacks Estrella. Raven has no time to draw his sword. In this critical moment, Estrella employs the magic known as "better to rely on yourself than on men." With a snap, the magical creature falls to the ground. The magical creature struggles to get up. Another slap, followed by a series of slaps. Everyone behind Estrella stares in amazement, watching Estrella defeat the magical creature by slapping it. Raven observes her, wondering who exactly she is, so domineering and overbearing. Suddenly, without paying attention, Estrella grasps Raven's hand and confesses passionately, "Duke's son, marry me." Ever since Lady Estrella publicly declared her love that day, Raven's life has undergone earth-shaking changes. No matter where he goes, no matter what he does, Estrella's followers among the team members pressure Raven. However, speaking of which, Estrella's divine power should be for healing. Why can it eliminate magical creatures? So far, no one has been able to possess two types of power simultaneously. The only exception is the legendary saint who single-handedly saved the continent. So should he sign the marriage contract or not? The contract termination condition Estrella offers is when Raven obtains his title. This is a contract clearly favorable to Raven's interests. So what exactly is Estrella's ulterior motive? Regardless, from this moment forward, Estrella and Raven's contract is signed, beginning their story together. Within the dear Duke's mansion, the maids are all decorating for Raven's wedding. While cleaning, they chat idly, wondering if the young lady will be heartbroken to learn that the young master has a destined woman. It turns out there is often a veiled beauty who enters the young master's room late at night. This matter dates back to that particular night. Seeing the visitor, Raven is visibly excited. The visitor is Kate, Raven's personal healer. In reality, Kate is a man disguised as a woman. To avoid attracting attention, the two always meet at night. Suddenly, two careless individuals push open the door and witness such a romantic scene. From then on, Raven's reputation spreads far and wide, never to be cleared. The team members who witness this scene quickly flee the battlefield, leaving Raven and Kate in awkward silence. From then on, there has been talk of the chosen woman. Several days pass, and Estrella visits again. Having nothing to do, she reads a book in the carriage. The book is titled Methods for Capturing Difficult Men. Step 1. Make a stimulating first impression that he cannot forget. Step 2. Become the woman he cannot help but think about. Step 3. Create heart-fluttering moments alone together in a private room. So that's it. Next, she just needs to be alone with him in a private room. But that person is as wary as a wild animal. How can she manage to be alone with him in a private room? The final conclusion, if necessary, she'll just tie him up and drag him to a private room. The carriage quickly arrives at the Deer family estate. The servants have already lined up neatly in advance, awaiting Estrella's grand arrival. Suddenly, Raven rushes forward and sweeps Estrella up in his arms. Raven's uncharacteristic behavior leaves Estrella confused. Of course, the maids, Kate the healer, and Henry the butler are also shocked. Raven enthusiastically greets Estrella. "Are you tired from the journey? What would you like to eat? Please rest quickly." The triple question is clearly directed at Estrella, but it leaves the servants completely bewildered. Looking at the smiling Raven, Estrella maintains her cold demeanor, scrutinizing the man beside her. The two walk into the room, under everyone's watchful eyes. Raven cheerfully opens the door. When the door closes, a stark contrast forms. Both maintain silence. Estrella breaks the silence first, casting a soundproof spell on the room. When she turns back around, Raven has already positioned himself 3 yards away from her. Is this the standard distance for serious conversations? Hardly. Oh, men. Estrella walks toward Raven, trying to reduce the distance between them. But unexpectedly, for every step she takes forward, he takes 2 steps back. Finally, Estrella surrenders to the cowardly gentleman. Raven also appreciates the understanding of the scheming lady. The two engage in a battle of words, with the final result being a draw. Suddenly, Raven says, "We must maintain this loving relationship from now on." Estrella thinks that appearing highly valued in public is better than being neglected. So she steps forward to indicate her agreement, as this is quite advantageous for her. Although Raven is a notorious playboy, being cornered against a wall is a first for him. He instantly turns red all over, his heart pounding uncontrollably. Only Raven knows he does this because he doesn't want to follow his father's path. Doesn't want the Duke's daughter to become the subject of mockery like his mother was. At this moment, outside the door, 3 captains secretly approach. Bang! Second Captain Daniel pushes open the door. The intimate scene between Raven and Estrella unfolds before their eyes. Seeing the loving couple, the 3 captains realize their impoliteness and close the door with a click, leaving without further disturbance. Through the door crack, 3rd Captain Arthur still advises team leader Raven, "Since you're the one who initiated the invitation, you must take responsibility." The door slams shut loudly once again. Soon it's time for the unit's team building. 3rd Captain Arthur advises Raven not to be stubborn and to learn how to manage romance. 2nd Captain Daniel advises Raven to exercise more, as it will be essential after marriage. 1st Captain Theo asks when they'll have children and promises he'll definitely love the team leader's children dearly. Hearing this, Raven reflects that he doesn't want to be like his parents. He once wanted to build the world's happiest family when he married in the future. But then came that day, when he learned his fate. Those who bear the Guardian's mark possess power, but the price is dying young. So even if he had someone he loved, what would it matter? His future holds only death anyway. Shortly after the Empire's establishment, magical creatures and miasma suddenly appeared across the continent, plunging the entire landmass into chaos. The great Saint and Guardian Knight appeared, repelling the magical creatures and establishing a protective barrier over the continent. To this day, those responsible for protecting people are the House of Charlene, Estrella's family, who purify miasma and provide healing, and the House of Deer, Raven's family, who subjugate magical creatures and manage the Guardian Barrier. Subjugating magical creatures always involves danger. From the team members' perspective, if the lady possesses powerful divine power and would be willing to join the subjugation, they would feel much more at ease. Lady Duke arrives, Daniel shouts from ahead, clearing the way. Passers-by all praise Estrella for being impressive, and she basks in the limelight. No one pays attention to our team leader, and the team leader expresses his displeasure. They're clearly going to subjugate magical creatures, yet it feels like walking a red carpet to attend a celebration. Seeing the two's relaxed attitude, he gives Daniel and the others a small punishment, but the two express their defiance, recalling how Estrella killed magical creatures just by slapping them. Plus, she has remarkable healing power, so they're not afraid at all. This leaves Raven speechless and unable to refute. The only way to relieve his frustration is another beating. Raven assigns Estrella to the rescue team, responsible for basic rescue operations. So the subjugation of magical creatures remains the responsibility of the 3 captains. This hits Daniel like a bolt from the blue, striking right at his heart. poor Daniel becomes dejected on the spot. On the way to the teleportation gate, Estrella wonders why they don't center the subjugation around the two of them, which would be faster. Indeed, that would be more efficient, but once they become dependent, what happens when we're not there? What will they do? Only this way will they possess the power to protect themselves, Raven explains. At this moment, Estrella feels that the person before her is not at all like the rumors suggest. Today's subjugation proceeds exceptionally smoothly. Daniel even comments that it's quite interesting. Lady Duke grabs the magical creature attacking the rescue team and defeats it with one punch. Fan certification complete, level 3. Raven sighs, truly at a loss for words with Daniel. He glances at Estrella beside him and sincerely praises her. Estrella has been constantly observing the team members' movements and providing appropriate support. Thanks to her, the subjugation proceeded much more smoothly. After Estrella meets Raven's gaze, she immediately explains that beating the magical creatures was unavoidable, not intentional showing off. Raven is momentarily shocked, but indicates he doesn't mind. In any case, thank you, Lady Duke. Dismissed for today! Estrella grabs Raven as he's about to leave, stating that she will handle Raven's purification herself. When she hears Raven about to refuse, she immediately enters rampage mode, brooking no refusal. Seeing this, Raven can only compromise. During treatment and purification, the larger the area of skin contact, the better the effect. So the clothes reluctantly disappear. Estrella's hand climbs onto Raven's abs, causing the team leader to blush furiously. After a full body examination, his body shows no abnormalities, only sluggish magical circulation. Estrella presses her advantage, continuing to examine this body that captivates countless young ladies. Reportedly, the young ladies who admire him extend to neighboring countries. But after sleeping with them once, he never looks at them again. He's a very heartless person. But no matter how terrible the rumors, his popularity never wavers. Social circles are full of rumors about Raven, but at this moment, looking at the man before her, Estrella has a bold idea. Could he still be a virgin? So Estrella leans in closer. Looking at his shy expression, Estrella confirms it. Our team leader really is experiencing his first time. This position with the woman on top and man below makes Raven quite displeased, because this woman always ignites fires on his body, truly testing his limits as a man. Seeing Estrella's hand moving lower and lower, Raven panics. Wait, you can't go any lower. You can't go any lower. Raven suddenly sits up, expressing his resistance. Kate looks at him speechlessly as he talks in his sleep. Raven looks at Kate before him, his brain briefly crashing. Then he covers his face in shame and indignation. It proves that people really can tremble from embarrassment. After Kate learns the whole story, she mercilessly mocks Raven. Now that Raven's virginity has been discovered, it's actually good timing. After all, the original Playboy reputation was false rumors to avoid marriage. But Raven thinks that he's already being played with now, and when Estrella finds out, won't he be mocked beyond recognition? Even more embarrassing. Will he be able to hold his head up? Raven looks at Kate with teary eyes, repeatedly confirming, would it really be embarrassing if discovered? Late at night, Raven bids farewell to Kate, but Estrella witnesses this. Who is that woman? Why does she come out of Raven's room? In the blink of an eye, Estrella has been at the dear Duke's house for 2 weeks. Because Raven gave special instructions, Estrella's days pass peacefully. The relationship between the two has reached the point where they can call each other by their first names. Judging by Raven's reactions, he probably has never been in love. While having her hair done early in the morning, Estrella sighs. She directly tells the maid that she saw a woman leave Raven's room late last night, and asks if the maid knows who it was. Faced with such a workplace death trap question, the maid wisely says she doesn't know and never inquires about Master Raven's private affairs. Estrella praises her loyalty, saying she should be proud as a servant. Estrella's reaction greatly surprises the maid. Lady Duke is nothing like the rumors at all. Estrella thinks that it doesn't matter if a rival appears. She absolutely will not admit defeat. After all, she's known as the Empire's first villainess. Could there be a better woman than her in this world? She doesn't believe it. Rather than waste time here, she should take some practical action. Seeing Estrella walking toward him, Raven immediately goes on high alert, assuming a defensive posture. Estrella suggests, let's have lunch together today. Raven relaxes. Estrella immediately follows up, let's go on a date tomorrow. Raven imagines what dating would be like. Daniel once said he spent a passionate night at the end of a date. So Raven naturally begins to imagine what a passionate evening means, and the dream scene from last night appears in his mind. The team leader becomes shy once again, inviting him on a date after discovering he's a virgin. Raven can't help but swallow. Thinking about Estrella's various strange behaviors before, Raven bluntly states, I refuse! It's definitely not because he's afraid. He really has many things to handle, Raven adds as an excuse. Daring to refuse Estrella's first invitation, Raven hasn't thought about the consequences. The captured Raven struggles hard, trying to break free, but cannot escape at all. He tries to break free again, but his feet don't budge. Raven looks at the woman with strange strength, thinking she's simply a gorilla. And he has to date her tomorrow. Just thinking about it gives him a headache. Raven states, I can go on the date, but I must return by 7 p.m. That's my condition. Estrella wonders if such a grown person still has a curfew. But Raven thinks that if he returns by 7 p.m., even the capable Estrella can only have an innocent date. So Estrella extends her finger, indicating they should pinky swear to make a contract. The moment they seal it, Raven feels dazed. How did he end up cooperating with such childish behavior? Things sealed with a pinky promise, no matter how trivial, feel particularly important. Late at night, Raven's study is brightly lit. He's still troubled about choosing a date location. Should they go boating in a scenic area, or watch a popular opera and then dine at a cafe? Raven is truly agonized. This is too difficult to decide. Just then, Third Captain Arthur comes to report the discovery of a miasma pool. This is a precursor to magical creature mutation and needs immediate attention. Time is of the essence. They should depart tomorrow. Halfway through speaking, Raven suddenly changes his mind. I'll go handle it alone right now. This truly drops Kate's jaw. Because he thinks about tomorrow's promised date with a lady. Good heavens, this drops both their jaws. So Raven sets out alone to handle the miasma pool situation. Arthur also thoughtfully writes down dating guidance. Raven arrives alone at the miasma pool location. He handsomely raises his arm and seals the miasma pool with a barrier. Now there's no danger of magical creatures appearing. But eliminating the miasma still requires purification from the House of Charlene. Before that, he must eliminate the magical creatures that have already formed before his eyes. Late at night, Raven returns to the castle with heavy steps. Kate stands waiting at the door. At this moment, Raven's complexion looks terrible, as if he might collapse at any moment, frighteningly pale and weak. Is it really necessary to push yourself this hard? The date can be postponed, Kate says. You're right, but I don't want to break the promise, Raven replies, looking up. Actually, Raven himself wonders why he's willing to force himself to keep the promise. The next day, inside the carriage, Estrella stares intently at Raven, and neither of them speaks. This leaves Raven very confused. Could she be thinking improper thoughts? Correct. Estrella's beloved book methods for capturing difficult men. Step 3. Create heart-fluttering moments alone together in a private room. So Estrella repeatedly checks whether Raven's heartbeat sounds normal. Following the book's content, she brings her face closer. Suddenly, commotion erupts outside the carriage with an abrupt stop. Raven reacts quickly, immediately protecting Estrella in his arms. Their eyes meet, and hearts pound wildly. Soon they arrive at the southern region's highest-end boutique clothing store. Boss Ada bows and warmly welcomes them. Raven instantly switches to social mode. After careful grooming, Estrella makes her gorgeous entrance. When the boss inquires about the Duke's son's opinion, Raven comments, very much like a gorilla. He accidentally speaks his thoughts aloud. Ada, observing the two, understands that rumors are indeed unreliable, and considerately goes to prepare other clothing. In the end, Raven still sends Estrella many clothes under the pretense of gratitude. Leaving the clothing store, Estrella wants to browse the street vendors. Ever since hearing that Raven likes coming here, Estrella has always wanted to visit. Of course, this was revealed by Daniel. While Raven isn't paying attention, Estrella grips his hand tightly. Raven's reaction is quite rude, as he immediately pulls his hand back. Estrella walks ahead in displeasure, but passers-by recognize her. Oh my, the future Duchess is so beautiful. We feel proud too. You and the Duke's son make such a perfect match. Hearing so many people praise him, Estrella doesn't know how to react for a moment, inevitably causing some misunderstanding. Recalling how in the northern region, people called her a witch, and blamed her for the appearance of magical creatures. The crowd continues to stir. Estrella! Suddenly someone shouts her name from the crowd. Raven rushes over and puts his arm around her shoulder. Although I'm happy everyone likes my fiancé, we're on a date right now. It's about time you let me have her to myself. Thank you, everyone. Afterward, Raven apologizes to Estrella for letting her act alone and fall into trouble. Suddenly a cat doll appears before her eyes. It looks just like you, doesn't it? I specially bought it for you, Raven says proudly. Really? Is that truly so? Today is our date. If we sit here, time will quickly be wasted. So Raven extends his hand. Estrella responds. And the two go browse the market together, watching Raven exude charm in every gesture. Estrella can't help but applaud. Reviewing the day, Estrella feels very happy, but she can't help asking Raven, why are you so good to me? Unexpectedly, Raven's next words make her extremely frustrated, because I really don't understand why you want to marry me. Estrella truly hates this about Raven, always answering questions with questions. He's really too cunning. Raven adds, because you're good to my team members. It turns out that after Raven left last night, Estrella went to purify the team members. This action shook Raven's heart. Moreover, being able to get along so easily is partly because Raven assumes Estrella doesn't like him. After all, he once said he would never marry a woman who likes him. Hearing this, Estrella trembles with anger. What if I end up liking you later? Then the contract relationship would end at that point. At night, lying in bed, Estrella tosses and turns, unable to sleep. She feels angry just thinking about Raven's words. Even if Estrella revealed her reason for marriage, Raven wouldn't believe it, would he? She certainly can't say it's because they were lovers in a previous life. At the founding ceremony a year ago, the two met for the first time. That day was no different from usual. The boring banquet made Estrella feel irritated. Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly saw Raven. In that instant, time seemed to stop. The sense of loss that had previously tormented Estrella's heart, the source of which was unknown, gradually transformed into joy filled with affection. That day, Estrella didn't even dare speak to Raven and could only flee in panic. Afterward, Estrella used every means to get close to Raven. If Raven also possessed the same ability as Estrella, he would surely hate her deeply. But in reality, Raven doesn't remember Estrella and feels nothing for her. Estrella came to Raven's side to compensate him, but temporarily forgot due to her greed for warmth. The next day, in the training ground, Butler Henry actually uses teleportation magic to reach Raven's side, showing the urgency of the situation. "Are you my daddy?" At this moment, a little boy asks Raven with complete sincerity. Looking at the little one before him, Raven finds it hard not to doubt his identity. He's clearly a virgin! Although this is somewhat embarrassing and cannot be known by others. So faced with this suddenly appearing little boy, Raven retreats step by step. Could this be the classic plot from melodramatic novels? The entrance of an illegitimate child? This adorable little boy instantly attracts many onlookers. Daniel calculates that Raven is currently 24, and the little boy is 5. That would mean he had the little one right after graduating from the academy? As he speaks, a heavy punch comes flying. Raven angrily walks over, denying that this could possibly be his child. Due to his virginity, he firmly denies it. But is this really not his child? Raven has no confidence either, because the boy looks too much like himself as a child. Good heavens, he's starting to doubt his own virginity. Kate takes everything in, and finally steps forward to explain, vouching with his own sexual orientation that he has always been the young master's companion, ending this farce. So Raven treats the little boy as a small guest, bringing him to the castle and arranging for Theo and Daniel to play with him. Meanwhile, Raven calls an emergency meeting, focusing all efforts on investigating the little boy's background. From the child's backpack, they learn he's Estrella's relative, a member of the House of Sebesta. Viscount Sebesta became addicted to drugs, causing the family to accumulate massive debts. So was the little boy sold? If the situation might deteriorate, they can only eliminate that child. Hearing Kate say this, Raven is visibly shaken. Fortunately, he knows Kate's temperament. His words and actions are always frightening. Raven rejects Kate's idea, stating that he would never harm a child under any circumstances, and warns him not to forget their agreement. After everyone leaves, Raven reflects that Kate became this way, and he bears responsibility. Kate Ropes, the legitimate heir of the House of Ropes. The family has protected the House of Deer for generations. To protect the House of Deer, they have done everything. The Guardian Barrier covering the continent can only be managed by the Deer family, so not only within the Empire. But many people from other countries also want the Deer family dead. The family born from complete loyalty to the Deer family, willing to kill and do dirty work to protect them, is the House of Ropes. Kate received thorough training from childhood, staying by Raven's side to protect him. On the other hand, Estrella carefully selects books in the bookstore, torn between two choices. One is called I Switched Bodies with the Prince, and the other As Long as I Can Be Your Servant. Third Captain Arthur suddenly appears behind Estrella. Choose the right one if you want to feel joy. Choose the left one if you want tension. Arthur's voice comes from behind. Estrella ultimately chooses the right one and turns to leave. Just then, Arthur teaches her a method for attracting people. That is direct attack. If that doesn't work, you can choose to retreat. Because being suddenly treated coldly, anyone would care about it. Night falls. The boy's eyes light up when he sees the person appearing at the door. He excitedly gets up and runs over, hugging Estrella's legs tightly. Estrella quickly crouches down and embraces the little boy, curiously asking, "Nar, how did you end up here?" "Estrella, you said you wanted to be my mother, and that you would adopt me once you get married." Nar is the child of Viscount Sebastian's third wife. Viscount Sebastian is Count Charlene's younger brother, making Estrella and Nar cousins. A year ago, at the Charlene family gathering, Nar asked Estrella to be his mother, and she casually agreed. And so we have this current scene. After hearing Estrella's explanation, Raven believes her words. This child isn't someone with ulterior motives who was deliberately placed by his side. "So this child isn't yours?" Daniel asks. Estrella thinks for a moment, then says with fake acting, "Actually, he is our child." After everything is explained properly, Estrella takes Nar to the guest room to rest. At midnight, Estrella tiptoes and opens the guest room door. Looking at Nar, who is fast asleep and snoring, she chuckles softly, helping to tuck in the blanket. Suddenly, she notices something. Estrella stares in shock at Nar's exposed skin, covered with injury marks. Since Nar's mother died, his days haven't been easy. With so many bruises on his body, one can imagine what kind of torment he has endured. Suddenly, Nar wakes from his sleep, sitting up in bed. He takes Estrella's hand and gently asks, "Does it hurt anywhere?" Estrella doesn't understand why Nar asks this, but she still replies that she doesn't hurt anywhere. Hearing this, Nar lies back down. Suddenly, he turns around and asks Estrella if his coming here without permission will get her scolded or hurt. Estrella understands everything now, roughly grasping what kind of harm Nar has suffered, so she comforts him. "Don't think about that. Go to sleep quickly." Soon, light snoring sounds again. In his sleep, Nar keeps apologizing. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have come. I've caused you trouble." The next day, in the dining room, 3 people are enjoying breakfast. "Aren't you eating?" Raven looks at the motionless Nar and asks curiously. Nar's hand trembles, and the knife falls to the floor. At this moment, Nar's face turns pale, not knowing what to do. He's not allowed to make mistakes. Is he going to be beaten again? Nar closes his eyes tightly, waiting for the expected fist to fall. Unexpectedly, Raven gently pats Nar's shoulder, indicating he's willing to help cut the food. Nar hurriedly hands over his plate. "Is cutting it to this size okay?" Raven asks patiently. "Sorry, we don't have children's utensils at home." After breakfast, Nar goes to the garden. "Nar, you can do it!" In the garden, a group of people are encouraging Nar to use his sacred power. With everyone's encouragement, Nar quickly condenses snowflakes. He's overjoyed and flies into Estrella's embrace. Everyone praises him as a genius, and the atmosphere is very lively. It's also time to properly discuss Nar's living arrangements. Estrella calls Raven to the room. During our marriage, can we let Nar live here together? Unexpectedly, this meets with Raven's stern refusal. No, I'm sending that child back to the Viscount's house. Even if he suffers abuse at home, I'll still send him away. Hearing Raven's words, Estrella is shocked. He clearly knows everything. Why would he still do this? Raven explains that if he agrees to this request, those greedy people will think that pitiful children might be taken in. Then there will be many children who suffer cruel treatment. To prevent that from happening, Nar must leave. At this moment outside the door, Nar's hand hovers over the door handle, motionless. Yes, he heard everything. So even when Estrella brings him exquisite little cakes, he can't muster any interest at all. Estrella asks him puzzledly what's wrong. Nar just smiles and says, "I want to go home. Please take me home." Estrella realizes that Nar overheard their conversation. Looking at such an understanding Nar who always thinks of others, Estrella feels very uncomfortable. The next morning, Estrella sees Nar off at the door. Nar bows deeply, thanking everyone for their care. Watching such a lovely child set off on his journey home alone, Daniel feels very reluctant, as does Estrella. The carriage travels on the road, and Nar can no longer hold back his tears. "I don't want to go back at all. I want to live here with everyone, but I don't want to see people fighting because of me even more. It's okay. I need to learn to be strong." At this moment, Raven stands in his room, not participating in Nar's farewell ceremony, looking at his family photo, looking at his childhood pictures. Young Raven was just like the current Nar, always covered in injuries to protect the servants. Nar's departure makes Raven feel very uncomfortable. Does it matter if he acts selfishly once? Raven really wants to adopt that child. Even though he thinks this deep down, he really can't take responsibility for Nar. After all, Raven doesn't know how long he can live. Once they know Raven is gone, the captains and Kate will definitely have a hard time. He can't be so selfish and leave all the problems to everyone. The next morning, in Estrella's room. Seeing Estrella packing her suitcase, the servants are greatly alarmed, begging Estrella not to leave. But she's not a creature of the pond or a caged bird. With one flash step, she easily evades the servants' sight. Even knowing Raven's intentions, Estrella still worries about Nar. The plan to fight for Nar now begins. She first goes to Kate's office, confirms that taking leave won't affect monster subjugation, then Estrella plans to set off home. According to Imperial law, minor children are naturally viewed as their parents' property. Official channels won't work. But our empire's greatest, Villainous, isn't afraid. After all, there are plenty of forceful methods. Just as Estrella has everything ready, the door opens. Raven walks in carrying Nar, shocking everyone. At this moment, Raven's protagonist aura surrounds his entire body. He looks absolutely amazing. Seeing Estrella, Nar rushes into her embrace. She looks at him bewildered, completely incredulous. He only responds with a nod and smile, an expression that says, "Leave it to me, don't worry." Actually, all this is thanks to the meddling old butler Henry. He discovered documents in the office. If someone possesses sacred power, even if they're a minor, even without guardian permission, they can enlist according to their own wishes. So as long as that document passes, they can officially adopt an AR. Hearing this suggestion, Raven still has concerns. Because hostile families will still oppose it, they might even choose to attack the Dyer family. His own lifespan is also uncertain. Such a situation absolutely cannot happen. Henry holds the young master's hand, asking him to rest assured that he will definitely protect Nar well. At noon, Estrella plays with Nar in the garden. Raven walks over from the distance. However, when their eyes meet and they look at each other, Estrella directly turns and walks away. Raven is thunderstruck, watching Estrella's retreating figure. He wonders, was I just ignored? At this moment on the other side, how despicable. If you're brave enough, fight me one-on-one. Weak guys always make the most noise. We need to quickly defeat that guy. Boom, boom. I am the most ferocious Demon King. Nar and the three captains are playing a game of Demon King and Heroes under the shade of trees, having great fun. As long as someone like Nar possesses sacred power, even without guardian consent, they can be directly recruited into the order as a trainee member. His Imperial Majesty intends to cultivate the next generation. There should be no problem with this. Estrella promises she will mention this matter to her father, asking the Charlene family to support this proposal. "All right, then please do," Raven says, and the scene falls silent. "Can I also become a healing warrior?" Nar asks excitedly. But before adulthood, you can only participate in healing work as a trainee. Even so, Nar is still very happy. It proves he can live here with everyone. Raven suddenly appears, and the two look at each other. Suddenly, Estrella turns her head away, ignoring Raven. Isn't this scene overly familiar? The same thing happened yesterday. If Raven isn't mistaken, Estrella has been keeping her distance from him. For example, when eating, she says she'll take all her meals in her room from now on. When Raven invites her for a walk to watch the sunset, she directly refuses. In short, whenever Raven tries to talk to her, Estrella always slips away. This makes Raven very dejected. Did I not take what she said earlier to heart but is still angry? Captain, save me! Theo runs up from behind Raven. So instead of one person listening to Daniel brag about his wife, it becomes two people listening to Daniel's endless praise of his wife. After 30 minutes, he's still talking non-stop. An hour later, he's still bragging away. My wife gets cold easily, so I hold her tight and warm her with my love. Raven successfully extracts 2 keywords from this hour-plus lecture, gets cold. The next day, Raven holds a blue box in his hand. pacing back and forth outside Estrella's door. Suddenly the door opens, and Raven scratches his head, expressing his apology for what happened before. Unexpectedly, Estrella never took it to heart and walks right past Raven. Raven can't take it anymore and grabs her hand. If that's the case, why are you avoiding me? Since you didn't take it to heart, can you listen to what I have to say? In the drawing room, the two sit side by side. Both turn their heads at the same time. You go first. Why are you taking meals in your room? Raven asks. I think this distance should make you more comfortable, Estrella replies. Just like you said, our relationship is only temporary, and we won't become a real family. This sentence deeply wounds Raven. Although these weren't Raven's true feelings, he did indeed say them. He was the one who pushed her away then, so it's deserved that it's backfiring on him now. For this, Raven sincerely apologizes to Estrella. This man really can't be helped. If he doesn't care about others' pain, why does he say such things? When he puts it like that, I really do feel a bit hurt. Also, you're not an outsider to me either. Raven, do you even know what this means? This statement leaves Estrella completely enchanted and irresistibly drawn. Raven is shocked, so Estrella can smile too. His hand unconsciously reaches up to touch her face. Coming to his senses, Raven immediately realizes his impropriety and apologizes shyly. Why did he just do such a thing? Such a flirtatious gesture. And that sincere apology just now, it's all too cunning. But what annoys Estrella most is that she made a request without thinking it through. She clearly knows how much Raven values the Dyer family members and how heavy the responsibilities on his shoulders are. Let's make up then. I don't want to keep fighting like this either. Estrella extends her hand first in friendship. Let's put this matter to rest. The two reach a friendly consensus, but Raven takes advantage of the handshake and refuses to let go, happy as a puppy. Raven touches his pocket, hesitating and fumbling. Estrella watches him put his hand in his pocket, searching for something. If you don't mind, please use this. Raven offers the blue gift box. It turns out to be a cream that can warm wherever it's applied, for use when hands and feet are cold. Because your hands are very cold. Your hands are very cold, so let's not hold hands. Estrella is shocked. She didn't expect Raven to remember what she said. She feels really warm inside and happily accepts this gift. The next morning, at the quiet dining place, Raven sits at the dining table with his arms crossed. He thinks, clearly they made up yesterday, so why is he still eating alone today? Tap, tap, tap. Just then Estrella runs over breathlessly. Sorry, I'm late. Raven's gloom instantly clears, his mood changing from cloudy to sunny. At the dining table, the two discuss setting the engagement banquet for 1 month later. They'll depart for the imperial capital the next day. In the castle, a girl looks at the invitation in her hand, gripping it viciously, expressing that she won't easily give up the Duke's heir. The Duke's heir and that villainess absolutely cannot be together. The Duke's daughter rarely comes to the imperial capital. Let's hold a tea party to welcome her. Scene switch. The girl points at trash on the ground and instantly changes her expression, urging the servants to clean it up quickly. The streets and alleys of the imperial capital become lively because of the engagement banquet invitations sent by the Duke's heir. The entire imperial capital buzzes with rumors about Raven and Estrella. The engagement news is officially public. The noble ladies who originally thought the marriage contract would definitely be cancelled let out desperate wails because Raven is about to belong to someone else. Meanwhile, at the Deer House, Raven announces that during the engagement banquet in the imperial capital, the Night Order will temporarily suspend activities. So during this time, everyone can do what they like. In other words, all Night Order members enter vacation mode. Raven pats Daniel, saying he'll still need the 3 captains to accompany them to the imperial capital as escorts. After the engagement banquet ends, the 3 will get their vacation. Even so, the 3 cheer happily. After all, this situation has never happened before. A few days later, it's time to depart for the imperial capital. Henry sees off the young master and miss, saying he'll definitely finish his work quickly and meet everyone in the imperial capital. In the carriage, Nar happily sings, overjoyed. He's very happy that he can go out with everyone. Thinking about how they'll pass through several cities along the way and can sightsee everywhere, he's super excited. The group sets off in a grand procession toward the imperial capital, happily heading in that direction. Along the way, they see many novel things. They play ring toss. Theo wins many prizes in one go. Nar happily hugs the little rabbit doll he won, feeling very cheerful. Third Captain Arthur tastes delicious grilled meat and happily shows off to Kate. Under the fatigue of travel, Estrella lets down her guard and leans lightly against Raven. Everything is so harmonious. Imperial capital, Deer Mansion. The family of 3 looks at the magnificent mansion, and both Estrella and Nar exclaim in amazement. Only the Deer family can own such a large piece of land in the imperial capital. This butler is Henry's son, Nathan. Responsible for managing this mansion, Nathan respectfully greets Estrella, thanking her for taking care of his father. The stern-faced Nathan glances at Nar, scaring Nar into thinking he's about to be eaten, hurriedly hiding in Estrella's arms. Probably because he served in the Navy, his face looks quite scary. Nathan introduces each room. Estrella's room is right next to Nar's room, which satisfies both of them. Seeing Estrella looking at the additioner invitations on the table, Nathan quickly explains that those are tea party invitations from noble ladies. On a sunny afternoon, delicious pastries, tempting coffee, silent noble ladies, quiet air. The evil countess leisurely holds her coffee cup, enjoying this eerie atmosphere. Don't mind me. Everyone continue chatting, Estrella says calmly. Time goes back to 2 days ago. Learning that Estrella was going to the tea party, Raven felt a bit of a headache. The notorious Estrella attending a tea party. It's extremely unsettling. So Raven earnestly tried to dissuade her, maybe skip it. This caused Estrella's displeasure. She's not inexperienced with tea parties and won't cause trouble for Raven. Why shouldn't she go? But actually Raven worries she's not good at socializing. Estrella senses Raven's concern, but she still says it's fine, not to worry. But when Estrella actually sits here, she realizes how out of place she is, and she discovers she seems to be targeted. They invited Estrella not out of wanting to befriend her, but to suppress her, indirectly hinting that her marriage to Raven is a political alliance, pointing out that a villainess's marriage will definitely fail, coldly mocking how pathetic the villainess's life is. Seeing these noble ladies show such faces, Estrella simply stops pretending. Since they're hinting she's a villainess, she naturally treats these noble ladies with a villainess's attitude. Estrella directly states that if she dislikes someone, she wants to completely crush them underfoot, leaving psychological trauma in that person's heart so they never dare look her in the eye again. So these women who love talking behind people's backs should get along well with her. After all, she's the villainess everyone shouts to beat that they speak of. Seeing the Duke's daughter say this, the girls have no way to respond and lose their previous arrogant attitude. So the tea party presents the previously silent and tense atmosphere. Afterward, the girls hurriedly get up, using physical discomfort as an excuse to flee the tea party. From this, Estrella completely gains control of the social scene's discourse. Soon, the tea party ends. Just as Estrella is about to say goodbye, she turns around and sees Raven walking toward her. Raven came because he was worried and wanted to pick up Estrella. Then Raven bids farewell to everyone with Estrella. The girls nearby cast envious glances. It seems the rumors about Raven doting on the Duke's daughter are true. Hearing this, a nearby girl clenches her fists. I must steal him away, the girl thinks. That evening at the Duke's mansion, Raven knocks on Estrella's door, inviting her to go for a walk to a secret spot only Raven knows. Estrella readily agrees. Then Raven extends his arm around Estrella. The two use teleportation magic in this position to go to Raven's secret spot. After a moment, the magic circle lights up. The two arrive at a grassland connected to the sky, very beautiful. Looking at this beautiful starry sky, Estrella is mesmerized. So beautiful. Seeing Estrella likes it, Raven is also very happy. He thoughtfully drapes his clothes over Estrella. Then asks about today's tea party, because when he picked up Estrella today, she looked tired. Estrella has no choice but to tell Raven about today's events in detail. Who knew Raven highly approves of Estrella's actions? After all, they provoked first, so there's no need to hold back. Moreover, Raven very much admires strong women like Estrella. Hearing Raven's words, Estrella mistakenly thinks Raven has masochistic tendencies. What kind of surprising thought process is this? Afterward, the two walk all the way and finally reach an open space. At this moment, two shooting stars streak across the sky. Looking at this beautiful night sky, ripples can't help but rise in their hearts. Raven looks at Estrella. Perhaps because of the moonlight, those originally familiar eyes look so beautiful. Imperial Palace Audience Hall. The Emperor reads a petition requesting that Nar be inducted into the Night Order without guardian consent. This way, the Raven family might clash fiercely with hostile nobles. The Duke says that since it's Raven's judgment, doing this should be fine. He just needs to assist his son and help him do what he wants. The Emperor is also helpless. The Duke is still the same, trusting his son completely. He advises the Duke that if he were more frank, maybe the father-son relationship wouldn't be so tense. Then he asks Raven to come see him soon. In the castle, Estrella looks very serious. She's thinking that if this continues, she might not be able to resist attacking Raven. Since the incident with Nar, Raven's attitude has become very gentle. Estrella believes that once Raven discovers she likes him, her plan will turn to bubbles. Half a year ago at the Charlene house, that was Estrella who had just recalled her past life memories. She not only didn't consider marrying Raven, but didn't even want to see him. If Raven doesn't have past life memories, even if it's the same soul, she doesn't consider him the same person. Although knowing this, she still can't help caring about Raven. As her investigation deepened, she learned that guardians always die young, basically all dying in the process of subjugating monsters. Even the longest-lived guardian only lived to about 40. Estrella couldn't bear this and wanted to save Raven, so this thought became her motivation for staying by Raven's side. She can use her power to protect Raven. This way, maybe he can live a long life like ordinary people. Just then, the engagement proposal with Raven arrived, and Estrella readily agreed, although her father was very surprised. After all, she had previously said things like, rather than marry a man, I'd rather destroy the Empire. But to avoid destroying the Empire, her father still agreed to Estrella's request. She believes that Raven, who values his team members, will definitely want her power, so she doesn't worry about whether Raven is willing to make the marriage contract. But the problem is, after making the marriage contract, her original plan was either to capture Raven's heart during the engagement, making the engagement indefinitely extended, or prove herself very capable, so, after divorce, she could still stay in the Night Order as a healer. Although both plans are good, she worries that once her feelings are exposed, Raven will probably drive her away without question. But at this moment, Raven arrives, interrupting her thoughts. Raven heard from servants that Estrella seemed strange. He's very worried. Looking at Raven's robust physique, Estrella feels her heart racing with desire. Inadvertently, saliva flows down. Raven thinks Estrella is unwell and immediately heals her. Looking at Raven, Estrella thinks clearly. From past to present, it's always been the same, the smile she wants to protect. That evening in the office, Kate saw Raven and Estrella's intimate interaction during the day and asks Raven, "Raven, do you perhaps like the Duke's daughter?" Returning to his room, Raven begins pondering this question. At that time, a thought flashed through his mind. What if he weren't a guardian? Guardians possess massive sacred power in their bodies and have overwhelmingly strong abilities. Therefore, they're viewed as the noble symbol of imperial heroes. Although this gives outsiders such an impression, in reality, guardians are just living sacrifices used to maintain the protective barrier. All previous guardians who developed the sacred mark, like him, died before age 25, without exception. This fact is protected by powerful secrecy magic, so Raven can't tell anyone. Just as written in the journal, the symptoms become more severe each year. Raven doesn't even know if he can live another year. He feels he has no right to like anyone. The next day, Estrella is telling Nar a story. Raven walks over. He says Nar's application has been officially approved. Then he reminds Nar that interning with the Night Order will be tough, but please take care of him from now on. Nar immediately tears up, because this is the first time Raven has called his name. Raven immediately feels apologetic and hugs Nar, promising to call his name often from now on. Estrella enjoys the drama and suggests taking this opportunity to fulfill one of Nar's wishes. Who knew Nar's wish would be for Raven to read to him? Raven naturally agrees. Reading several books is no problem. Afterward, Raven reads the adventures of the great saint and guardian knight to Nar. After finishing this book, Nar wants more and wants to get another book. At this time, Raven notices that Estrella beside him seems displeased and asks why. Estrella says she just hopes the story could be more realistic. The great saint is clearly more beautiful, intelligent, and elegant, while the guardian knight is just an idiot. Raven jokingly says, "You talk as if you've seen them in person." Of course I've seen them, because the great saint and guardian knight are our past lives. But this is all Estrella's fantasy. If she said this, she would definitely be laughed at harshly by Raven. So she says she's just teasing Raven, and Raven doesn't pursue it further. He changes the subject, mentioning the recently popular theater troupe in the imperial capital that's performing the great saint and guardian knight. So he invites Estrella to take Nar, and the three of them can watch together. Estrella naturally agrees. She also thinks of Raven's birthday being in those days, just in time to celebrate. But Raven has something hard to express and can only explain he has something on his birthday, changing it to the last day of the performance. At this time, the butler mentions that there's a delivery for Raven. Raven goes out to check and discovers a courtyard full of packages. He's curious about who sent them. Kate picks up the card, which reads, "From your little cutie." Estrella immediately perks up with curiosity, and Raven says, "Let me try to explain myself." Then Kate explains that the little cutie is his Imperial Majesty. Thinking that his Imperial Majesty just wants to trouble him with such pranks, Raven feels a bit speechless, but he discovers something good among the packages and immediately brightens up. It's a bottle of 10-year-aged premium wine from the south. That evening, Raven and Estrella enjoy this wine at the mansion. Estrella doesn't dislike drinking. On the contrary, she often drank in her past life. However, in this life, she at most has a little at parties to pass time, so she doesn't know her alcohol tolerance. After tasting it, Estrella's eyes light up. This wine is very delicious. Seeing that Estrella also likes it, Raven is very happy and keeps pouring wine for Estrella. But soon, he regrets it. Obviously, Estrella's body in this life hasn't adapted to alcohol. While becoming tipsy, she also inadvertently speaks her mind. She says that with such delicious-looking flesh dangling in front of her eyes, it's quite difficult to resist pouncing on it. Seeing Raven very shy, Estrella pounces on him. Her fingertips wander over his body. But soon the situation reverses. Seeing Estrella's expression, Raven has confirmed everything. But he still needs to ask directly, "Do you like me?" "I like you." Estrella, emboldened by alcohol, reveals her secret. Actually, there's something she regrets and will never get over. The knight always sincerely and wholeheartedly declared his love for the saint. But the saint, afraid to trust others, never once spoke truthfully to the knight. Even when he proposed, her reply was just "whatever you want." Finally, the knight asked the saint to break their engagement, and told the saint he had fallen in love with someone else. But the saint simply replied, "I wish you happiness." She can still remember the despair of that day. The Night Order members accused the saint. "Why didn't you try to keep him? How could that man who always had the saint on his lips possibly like someone else? That man died to protect the saint. To spread a barrier across the continent to expel monsters, someone needed to be a sacrifice. So he became the saint's substitute." Actually, the saint had long known how much the knight loved her, but she never once said, "I like you." She was very frustrated, regretful. If only she could see him one more time. The saint thought this every day. So, this one phrase, "I don't like you," she absolutely can't say it. The next day, Estrella regrets again. She didn't expect her alcohol tolerance to be so poor. Even if she can't say she doesn't like him, she should have been able to change the subject. She decides to find Raven and clarify things. But on the way, she meets Night Order members bringing hangover medicine for both of them. After thanking them, she takes the hangover medicine and knocks on Raven's door. Raven appears extremely nervous, until Estrella asks, "Raven, do you remember what happened last night?" Without waiting for Raven's response, Estrella states that she has no memory after getting drunk. Seeing this, Raven doesn't press further. instead moving to Estrella's side to get hangover medicine. Just as their hands are about to touch, an electric current flashes between them. Some images surface in both their minds. Raven is puzzled, having just seen again the woman who appears in his dreams. Coming back to his senses, Raven asks with concern if Estrella is hurt. Estrella says she's fine, dodging away from Raven's touch. In the evening, Raven recalls Estrella's words from the morning. He can tell Estrella is lying, but he can't bring himself to ask further. When Estrella said she liked him, his heart was moved. But he believes he should stay away from her. Continuing to stay together will only bring Estrella misfortune. At this moment, Raven looks up and surprisingly sees Nar in the garden. He walks over, curious about why Nar is wandering outside alone so late. Nar quickly apologizes. But what Raven cares about isn't this. Rather, he tells Nar to report next time before coming out. Otherwise, they'll all worry. It turns out Nar heard there's a transparent flower that only blooms at night here. Learning that Nar wants to see the night-blooming flower, Raven brings Nar to the garden. Nar is extremely happy. Being able to stay with Raven and the others is his greatest joy. Then Raven asks about why Nar voluntarily offered to leave when they first met. Nar answers that he didn't want to cause Raven and the others to fight and feels sad because of him. Only then does Raven realize Nar overheard their conversation. Guilt immediately surges through his heart. He's at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain. After all, he's hurt Nar again. But at this moment, Nar suddenly hugs Raven, comforting him that he doesn't want Raven to be sad because of him. Seeing the young child who has suffered so much yet remains full of warmth, Raven feels deeply guilty. He hopes to protect the warmth and sunshine in this child's heart, hoping his gentle heart will never be hurt. Raven resolves to protect Nar well. The young Nar didn't escape from the most difficult situations. Raven decides he too cannot escape. He must have a clear conversation with Estrella. The next day, Raven is sparring with Kate. After finishing, Kate notices something seems to have happened between Raven and the Duke's daughter. However, thinking it over, it's precisely because of Raven's character that everyone has come to love him. Then he reports on the personnel arrangements for the engagement ceremony, which will all be handled by Kate. Because this place is different from the territory, many servants aren't actually loyal, but infatuated. He has no choice but to first screen out the unnecessary people. The scene shifts to young Raven being strangled by his mother, feeling suffocated, both physically and spiritually. But when he opens his eyes, he sees his crying mother. The young child doesn't understand what he needs to do to make his mother smile at him. At this moment, Raven suddenly awakens. It was just a dream. Raven actually fell asleep while working. He realizes he hasn't been sleeping well lately. So he comes to Estrella's door, deciding to talk with her. It turns out Estrella wasn't sleeping either. She also has many things she wants to say to Raven. She first apologizes to Raven, admitting she lied. She remembers everything that happened that day. Raven smiles calmly. He had already guessed this, but he's grateful that Estrella told him the truth. But I will give up on you, Estrella says. Raven knows this is another backlash from words he said before. He feels deeply remorseful. Just how many times has he hurt her? Then Raven poses the question he's always had. What is Estrella's reason for maintaining the marriage contract at any cost? Reluctantly, Estrella reveals her plan. She wants to use her power in the right place. And Raven is the only noble who encourages and supports women's independence. Only then does Raven learn that Estrella actually wants to join the Deer Knights. After learning Estrella's intentions, Raven becomes more conflicted. After all, he doesn't know when he'll no longer be able to protect her. But if they divorce, and Estrella stays in the Knights, she'll face ridicule from those around her. So even knowing Estrella doesn't care, he still can't accept it. He wants Estrella to be happy. Therefore, Raven can only say he wants to find a result both parties can accept. But this matter is currently difficult, so he wants to discuss it again another day. At the training ground, Kate finds Arthur and gives him a list. 3 people on it make Kate very concerned. Arthur immediately understands, saying he'll personally observe these 3 people's performance. At this moment, a knight is displaying gentlemanly spirit, offering to help a maid carry clothes. The maid is very moved. But this knight thinks to himself that women get so happy just from him acting a little kind. What a stupid woman. At this moment, Arthur walks up, saying he'll carry the other basket of clothes. Later on the way to wash clothes, Arthur reveals his intention to recommend him for team leader, also revealing that both of them are of noble birth and don't want to give the position to a commoner. This guy is thrilled. Knowing he's about to be promoted, he immediately gets cocky, actually saying that kid Nar is obviously a bastard who would risk making enemies of numerous nobles to protect a child with no relatives. He also says if that's the case, it means the Duke's daughter is just pretentious and arrogant on the surface, but privately does whatever she wants. He even says he'd like to try the taste of the Duke family heir himself. Just then he bumps into someone. A tall, imposing man who commands respect without anger. That's right, from the moment the man started speaking, Raven has been standing there, hearing everything. But Raven doesn't say much, just turns and walks away. This man still tries to argue, even saying that mocking women is nothing unusual for us noble men. Little does he know Raven most despises those who, merely born nobles by chance, indulge in their status and cannot make proper judgments. Also, Estrella is not someone for a man like you to comment on casually. Raven actually wants to cut out the tongue of this guy who spoke rudely about Estrella. But considering he was once a member of the Knights, he ultimately just drives the men away. Returning to the hall, seeing the servants talking among themselves, Raven can only sigh and warn everyone that House Dyer exists to protect the people, including those with shared aspirations. He's willing to pay any price to protect them, so if anyone harms what he cherishes, he absolutely won't forgive them. Meanwhile, Estrella hears about what happened from the Knights, so she decides to discuss with the Knights about preparing a birthday gift for Raven together. But the Knights think it's better not to give a gift. Estrella doesn't understand why. Because my birthday is also the day my mother passed away, so I don't celebrate it specially, that's all. Raven walks over and speaks slowly. The next day, Raven comes alone to a grave, looking at his mother's tombstone. Raven's thoughts return to childhood, when his mother suddenly remembered tomorrow is Raven's birthday. Before she knew it, Raven had already turned 6. Then his mother suggested they hadn't gone out together in a long time, asking if Raven wanted to go out and walk around tomorrow. Raven was extremely happy. Of course he wanted to go out with his mother. The next morning, Raven dressed up handsomely and came to his mother's door with flowers he prepared for her. He hoped to make his mother feel happy and joyful today. But when he pushed open the door, the scene that met his eyes, Raven was stunned. His mother had committed suicide on Raven's 6th birthday. At the Duke's mansion, a young lady slowly steps down from a carriage. She seems familiar with the butler, who is also happy to see the young lady again. It turns out she's called Swan, Raven's sister. Walking into the mansion, Swan feels somewhat anxious. After all, in the rumors, the Duke's daughter's image is like this. Soon she meets the original character. Seeing Estrella for the first time, Swan is captivated by her beauty. Coming back to her senses, feeling she's lost her composure, Swan instinctively steps back, forgetting there are stairs behind her. Seeing this, Estrella quickly grabs her, pulling her into her arms, and her suitcase falls to the ground. The 18+ books inside also fall out and are picked up by the goddess. Swan wants to find a hole to crawl into from embarrassment, but the expected disgust and disdain don't come. The sister-in-law in front of her actually says she has the sequel to this book, the 20+ kind. In the following time, Swan and the butler expectantly want to hear the stories between her and Brother Raven. But Estrella says there aren't any particularly special stories. However, the lake Raven took her to clearly reflected the shooting stars. It's a very dreamy and beautiful place. Only then do the butler and Swan realize they went to Raven's favorite secret spot. Swan is greatly shocked, because when she was little, she cried and begged her brother to take her there several times. But Raven never agreed, so she's very surprised. Swan believes that place is very important to her brother. So important he didn't want to tell anyone. Yet he took Estrella there. She immediately feels relieved, because she was afraid their parents' broken relationship would make her brother think love and marriage are unfortunate behaviors. But seeing her brother seems to have accepted Estrella, Swan finally feels at ease. At this moment, a servant rushes in saying Master Raven has returned. Swan then takes leave from her sister-in-law to go greet her brother. Raven also knows his sister has returned, so he wants to bring Kate to say hello. But Kate has no such intention. Kate doesn't want to go greet her. Raven can see Kate is being stubborn. Clearly, Kate still carries the hairband Swan gave him. At this moment, Swan finally sees her brother. Looking at the siblings' intimate appearance, Kate nearby feels mixed emotions. Then Raven mentions Kate, saying he came here. Soon it's the day of the engagement ceremony. Raven is arranging personnel assignments. He assigns outdoor security to Daniel. Indoor security becomes weak, so Kate and the others need to pay constant attention. They need to particularly watch Marquise de Rennie's daughter. If anything happens to her, even an accident, those nobles will seize the opportunity to attack their family. The court nobles view the Raven family, who have deep ties with the king, as a thorn in their side. It wouldn't be wrong to say both sides are in an adversarial relationship, especially after Marquise de Rennie's daughter's father became head of the family. They don't even pretend anymore. There's also Count Amore's daughter. She once invited Miss Estrella to attend a tea party, but she's always secretly loved Raven, so she might secretly plot something. Regardless, her reasons for approaching Estrella are not pure. During their conversation, Raven has already reached a door. Pushing open the door, Raven freezes. 1 minute earlier, Swan was praising Estrella's beauty. Just as she was about to call her brother over, she suddenly discovers her brother standing dazed in front of her, because he's stunned by Estrella's beauty, standing there at a loss. At this moment, Swan reminds him not to stand there staring stupidly, go praise Estrella. After much consideration, Raven still gives up on compliments. Instead, he steps forward and extends his hand. Then let's go. The sacred hall doors slowly open. Raven leads Estrella slowly down the steps. Everyone casts envious glances their way. Then Raven, amid applause, delicious food, lights, and music, recites his opening speech, and the banquet officially begins. The first person Raven encounters is Estrella's father. The father and daughter's sour faces are truly inherited. After some pleasantries, Raven lets Estrella catch up with her parents while he goes to entertain the distinguished guests. Just as Raven is greeting an endless stream of nobles, a commotion arises from the crowd. It turns out the troublesome duo is online. Raven immediately brings Swan forward to chat, but at this moment Raven suddenly notices there seems to be an argument happening on Estrella's side. Swan also notices this. She immediately praises the two ladies, then transforms into a professional rescue person, helping Raven chat with the two girls. Only then can Raven break away. Raven walks forward, only to hear Estrella's father saying they must cancel this engagement and have her return to the territory immediately. Raven has walked right into it. It turns out Estrella's father learned about Raven having Estrella participate in monster subjugation. Estrella's father angrily punches Raven directly. then states he absolutely won't agree to this marriage. Raven is helpless. He can't betray Estrella, so he can only apologize, saying his consideration was inadequate. He'll personally visit later to explain and make amends, but please don't pursue this matter for now. Hearing this, Estrella's father turns and leaves. Not long after, by the fountain in the courtyard, Estrella is treating the innocent Raven who just got beaten. Then she apologizes to Raven, saying this is all her fault, but Raven comforts her that there's no need to apologize. Actually, Raven has been troubled about what to do. He actually doesn't want to end this relationship. So he pretended to consider Estrella's welfare, using the excuse of finding an answer both parties can accept to postpone the current problem. He still believes that if he truly doesn't want Estrella to encounter misfortune, there's only one answer. So he can only say the Duke is right, this is actually a good opportunity. At this moment, two women are talking on the balcony. With Raven engaging to the Duke's daughter, they have a chance to compete for positions as second and third wives. Even if they're not favored, it doesn't matter. After all, guardians always have short lives, they just need to wait until the Duke's daughter becomes a widow. Then the wealth and power can all be theirs. Hearing this, Estrella suddenly stands up, ready to unleash her fury at the two, but Raven stops her. Estrella wonders if Raven isn't angry? Actually, Raven thinks those are facts. As the sacrifice who maintains the protective barrier, he cannot escape the fate of death, nor can he tell her the truth. He can only say that it's true that guardians die young from monster subjugation, and Raven feels he probably can't avoid it for long either. Hearing this, Estrella is greatly shocked. Then she shouts at Raven, "Don't accept your sacrifice so calmly. Why don't you try harder to survive? Protecting the Empire's people is the Guardian's duty, and his obligation as a member of House Deer. Even knowing he will die, he won't choose to step down from the front lines. He also can't let his responsibilities implicate Estrella, so he can't marry Estrella." Estrella trembles with anger. What she wants to hear isn't the words of Raven as the heir of House Deer, nor as the Guardian. She wants to hear Raven's true feelings. Raven has known since childhood that he will die soon. Even so, he comforts himself that at least it's not Swan who will die. And if the protective barrier disappears, everyone will be unhappy. That would be terrible. Moreover, the people around him, people he doesn't know, even his father, all think highly of him. So dying as a guardian is something to be proud of. Is it really something to be proud of? Is it really a good thing? Actually, Raven is very afraid of death, isn't he? He also really wants to live longer with everyone. But he knows that even praying to live longer is just wasted effort. Knowing he won't live long, falling in love with someone will only increase suffering. Since he knows the person left behind will become unhappy, they shouldn't be together. But hearing Raven's twisted logic, Estrella becomes extremely angry. She questions Raven, "What right do you have to assume I'll definitely become unhappy? I don't want your protection at all. I won't blame you for the outcome I choose myself. Even if there's only a little time left, I want to walk forward with you, because I like you. My happiness is being with you." Hearing Estrella's feelings, Raven can no longer hold back and tightly embraces his tear-streaked fiancé. Afterward, Estrella suddenly feels a bit regretful. How embarrassing, crying and losing her temper. Raven quietly wipes away the small tears on Estrella's eyes. Only then does he notice Estrella's eyes are swollen from crying. Estrella immediately says it's all Raven's fault and he needs to take responsibility. So, after panicking for a while, Raven finally kisses Estrella's eyes. He frantically explains that when he was little, he would blow on wounds. But you can't blow on eyes, so he thought of changing the method. Raven's expression at this moment leaves Estrella completely helpless. She simply confesses that she's liked Raven from the beginning, wanting to create opportunities to stay by Raven's side no matter what. That's why she proposed the contract marriage. She wants to protect Raven. Whether it's monsters or humans, as long as they want to hurt Raven, Estrella will defeat them. Even if a god wants to take Raven away, she'll fight them off. She also understands that Raven keeps his distance to avoid hurting her, but Estrella wants a chance. For this, she's determined not to back down anymore, and will use all her strength to capture Raven during the remaining contract period. Raven is amazed by this impressive woman, from her guilt with a slightly red nose tip, to the heartache with moist eyes, to now boldly confessing her admiration. He's almost completely fallen. The next day, the Duke visits. The Duke is curious about what reason his daughter plans to use to convince him. Who knew Estrella understands that explaining anything now probably won't get through to him. So Estrella directly spreads her arms. Flower petals fill the entire manor. The father is surprised by when Estrella gained such powerful sacred power. About a year and a half ago, and currently across the entire continent, no one can manipulate purification sacred power better than Estrella. Having the strongest power but not contributing because of worldly rules and opinions, isn't that wrong? The Duke sighs. He agrees with Estrella's words. Estrella finds it strange that her father agreed so easily. Something abnormal must be suspicious. At this moment, Raven also rushes over. And at this point, the Duke already understands the truth of the matter. He agrees so easily because of Nar's situation. He owes Raven a favor, plus witnessing his daughter's abilities, he has no reason to obstruct them. But the cunning Duke still poses a challenge for the two. He wants to clearly see if Raven truly loves his precious daughter, so he tells Raven to kiss Estrella in front of him. At this moment, both are thinking about whether they should take the initiative to prove their love. Just like this, both taking initiative simultaneously, they bump into each other. Raven quickly apologizes. But Estrella, since confessing seems to have completely let loose, she pulls Raven over, engaging in deep tongue-to-tongue communication. And it's many pages worth of deep communication. Looking back, Raven's face is completely red, even still savoring the feeling just now. In contrast, Estrella is effortlessly composed as if they kiss frequently. This operation also completely stuns the Duke. But what follows is fury from the father-in-law. "What have you done to my daughter, you brat?" Before leaving, the Duke tells Estrella that his brother Gallic is coming to the imperial capital to visit her. Although Gallic is Estrella's twin brother, she doesn't want to see him right now. The Duke says that's still your brother. You should get along well. The Duke and his family also plan to stay at their villa in the imperial capital for a while, telling Estrella to visit them when she has time. Then they depart in their carriage. Watching the carriage's departing figure, Estrella remembers. An hour ago, she asked her father why he agreed so readily. That's because the Duke believes Nar's situation made Raven bear all the responsibility and criticism. He feels he owes Raven a great favor. Obviously, a compromise method could be found to protect Nar. But due to time constraints, Raven didn't even have time to convince everyone before forcibly pushing through the legislation. This incurred great resentment from the court nobles, and House Dyer is currently facing criticism because of this. All of this is naturally for Estrella, the Duke reminds her. And now that it's come to this, regret is useless. Better to understand House Dyer's fighting methods and position, and do your best to help them. Estrella is curious. What is House Dyer's fighting method? House Charlene's fighting method is crude. After all, their family has no reputation to speak of, while House Dyer relies on control over subjects and the political energy of public opinion, creating many enemies. Only House Dyer in the world can manage the protective barrier covering the entire continent, so they originally held enormous power. But now it's no longer the family, but Raven who has become the symbol of power. Raven implements thorough image management, deifying himself, thus he has many worshippers among both commoners and nobles. This way, after his death, the people will become a shield protecting House Dyer. That's probably what he plans. But this incident has caused him to face controversy, so Estrella should stay by his side and support him even more. The Duke also knows Estrella won't change her mind, so he tells Estrella to support him until the very end, even if it means becoming enemies with House Charlene. But he wants Estrella to know that House Charlene will always be her safe haven, so feel free to fight alongside Raven. Back to the present, Estrella decides that since she wants to protect Raven, she must also change herself. However, at this moment, Raven is still savoring the deep communication just now. At this time, Henry asks him, since the engagement ceremony ended successfully, when do they plan to get married? Marriage? This is something Raven hasn't and doesn't dare to think about. Henry expresses understanding, then continues escalating the conversation, also mentioning having children. Raven finds this warm scene unreal. Then he still decides to first report to the Emperor that the engagement ceremony ended successfully. In the following time, the two read books in the pavilion. But Raven is absent-minded, not even noticing he's holding the book upside down. He's still very concerned about the deep communication. About this, Estrella suddenly has the feeling of being a pervert teasing an innocent girl. Later, Estrella proposes wanting to learn more about the noble situation, considering finding a tutor. Raven is curious why Estrella suddenly wants to understand these things. Estrella explains that her previous self always lived as she pleased, even being called a villainess because of it. So, she's unfamiliar with court situations and has difficulty building relationships with others. She wants to help Raven, but all she can do is use sacred power. But Raven doesn't think so. He believes Estrella can think from others' perspectives for their sake. At the same time, she's very strong and brave. Even knowing she'll be blamed, she still chooses to stand up and never escape. Raven initially thought her words and actions were somewhat unlike a lady, so he was somewhat guarded, not knowing what her purpose was. However, as time passed, his favorable impression of Estrella grew deeper. Estrella's straightforward behavior and words often give Raven courage. He firmly believes he's definitely not the only one who thinks this way. Initially, the servants feared her because of Estrella's reputation as a villainess, but now they've all come to love her and take pride in serving her. The one who touched their hearts is none other than you, Estrella. Hearing Raven's heartfelt expression, Estrella regains her courage. But Raven thinks learning more about the situation won't hurt. This knowledge can also help Estrella. So before long, Kate is invited to become Estrella's tutor, and he's being quite overly responsible about it. However, Estrella has also made up her mind, starting with understanding the court nobles. While Estrella is learning noble intelligence, Raven is also troubled by some things. At this time, he has dating guide borrowed from Arthur after reading this book, You Two Are an Excellent Man, Secrets to Successful Dating with Charming Women edition. But soon he realizes just how low his emotional intelligence is. Ultimately, he gives up. After all, while the content is worth referencing, actually implementing it seems extremely dangerous. Raven never thought that even facing death, he would have a day when he'd worry about romance. Then, Swan, who is drinking tea, receives a visit from her brother. Seeing the book on her brother's chest, Swan immediately understands. Raven says he has a friend who wants to invite the woman he likes on a date. His friend wants the woman to have fun, so he wants to ask Swan if this book has any reference value. However, Swan has already seen through everything. She believes that as long as her brother carefully arranges things for Estrella, she'll definitely be very happy. The exposed Raven still wants to argue, but Swan says it's okay. Actually, before coming here, she was always worried that her brother was marrying for her sake, because Henry once told her that their father threatened to marry her off, but in fact, their father loves Swan very much. It was all lies. And guardians have special privileges. As long as someone else can take over, they don't need to fulfill marriage obligations, meaning the engagement is something he can cancel at any time. So he didn't decide to get engaged because of Swan. Moreover, he's grateful he met Estrella. At this moment, Swan suddenly says, "So the day when brother loses his virginity is finally coming." The next day, at the Imperial Palace, Raven comes to see the Emperor, expressing gratitude for His Majesty's previous gifts. But His Majesty doesn't want to hear those cliches. Instead, planning to question why the Emperor wasn't invited to the engagement ceremony, Raven doesn't feel guilty about this at all. However, the next second the Emperor walks to Raven's front, then sits on the ground, finally gives up completely. Truly the most difficult man to deal with when throwing a tantrum. Still asking Raven if he plans to fight with him, this Emperor. Raven is helpless, completely unable to handle this Emperor. Finally, the Emperor and Raven start drinking. The Emperor heard rumors saying Raven loves the Duke's daughter very much. He's curious if this is true, but Raven is too shy to answer, instead asking why he hid the engagement discussion from him. It turns out the Emperor originally planned to arrange a marriage between Raven and Marquise Doreni's daughter. This way, the factional relationship between southern nobles and court nobles could also calm down. It would be the best choice. But at the founding commemoration party a year ago, the Emperor noticed Estrella's unusual attention to Raven. But later the Emperor accidentally heard that the Duke's daughter was secretly investigating Raven. He immediately realized this was love. The unity of the two great ducal houses representing the empire could not only check the court nobles but even influence surrounding countries. However, judging from the results, the Emperor's eye is still quite sharp. And since they already love each other, then enjoy romance well and have House Deer hold grandchildren in the future. Actually, the Emperor is very perceptive. He also senses that Raven always seems like he's preparing for death. He's very curious if there's another reason why successive guardians die young. But obviously Raven can't reveal the sacrifice matter. He's afraid His Majesty and the others will seek ways for him to avoid fate. So he explains there's no such thing, it's just that monster subjugation always carries danger. Seeing Raven say this, the Emperor can't ask more. Then he inquires whether Raven saw that guy at the engagement ceremony, his successor, Lydia. At this moment, a handsome man is muttering, "Duke Charlene's daughter."